The #1 pizza chef in Italy once told me that a perfect Neapolitan pizza should melt on your tongue like a piece of chocolate, and since then, I've never looked at pizza the same. What is Neapolitan pizza? A true Neapolitan style pizza cooks insanely fast in a super hot oven, which gives it a soft, tender center and a puffy, blistered crust with very simple fresh toppings. The name comes from Naples, Italy, where it was invented, which is actually very close to where my family in Italy came from. So technically, I was invented there too. Everything starts with a good dough, and we begin this dough by adding some water to a bowl, along with some salt, and then simply mix with your hand to dissolve the salt as best you can. Next, we add in just a little bit of flour, and I'm not just using any flour. When I asked the #1 and #2 pizza chefs in the entire world their advice before putting this recipe together, they both told me to use this flour from Naples. Once again, get in there with your hand and mix until you get a milky mixture. Your job here is to mix until no clumps of flour remain. Now, we'll go ahead and add our yeast, and once again, I'm going to use my hands to help that yeast melt into the mixture. This is one of the things I love about Italian cooking. You always seem to get your hands dirty no matter what you're making. While we keep mixing with this hand, we're going to start to incorporate our flour. One handful at a time, go ahead and drop that flour in and continue mixing. You're just going to repeat this process until you've added all that flour in, and you'll see that as you do it, that dough is going to slowly come together. This step here is a really fun part of making pizza dough, because you can gradually feel that texture starting to change as you continue to add and mix. Later in this episode, I'm also going to tell you about a secret ingredient I learned from the #1 pizza chef in the world that I never would have guessed, and I promise none of you ever would either. Once your flour gets low, go ahead and toss the rest in, and just finish working all that dough together, constantly scraping down the sides of your bowl and making sure to incorporate all that flour. It may look like not all that flour is going to get soaked up by the dough, but just do your best to continue working it, and I promise that eventually it should all come together. Make sure you also rub off any of that excess dough that may be stuck to your fingers, because you really want to make sure to include every last little bit. Once your dough looks something like this, go ahead and just fold it over like this so you create some kind of seam on the bottom. Do your best to shape it into a ball and place that face down in your bowl. Cover this with plastic wrap and let it rest at room temperature for 16 hours. I know, dough takes a long time, but trust me when I say you are not going to find better dough anywhere else. And 16 hours later, our dough has risen. Remove the plastic wrap, then flour up your work surface, and do your best to gently remove that dough from your bowl. Now, we'll divide that dough right in half, and then use whatever method you want to form each of the pieces of dough into a nice ball. I say whatever method you want because there are different ways to do this, but if you're struggling with this part, there are plenty of videos online that'll teach you how to do it. Once you've shaped them into nice balls, go ahead and place them down, spaced out between one another on a parchment-lined baking sheet, and then cover everything with plastic wrap and place this in the fridge for 30 hours. Letting the dough slowly ferment like this is what's going to give us that Neapolitan, soft, tender, melt in your mouth dough. Let's move on now to our sauce. First, we'll open up a jar of canned San Marzano tomatoes. This is the gold standard for tomatoes that chefs use when making pizza. And it's one of my favorite parts of the entire pizza making process. With clean hands, get in there and break up those tomatoes. It can be a little messy, but to me, it is truly one of the most special parts of making pizza. Every amazing pizza chef I've ever met breaks their tomatoes up just like this. Similar to making the dough, there's something about just getting in there with your hands and being a true part of the recipe that's irreplaceable. And the coolest part to me about breaking up your tomatoes like this is that you can really customize the texture of your sauce. Feel all the little chunks that are in there and break them up however you want. It's a beautiful part of the pizza making process. Then add in a couple cloves of whole garlic. Oh no, 5-second rule. Some beautiful fresh basil. You can leave the stem on, but make sure that basil's nice and fresh. How beautiful is that, by the way? That makes you think of pizza, and there's not even a pizza here, right? And finally, a nice sprinkle of salt. Find a jar that'll fit all that sauce and transfer it all over. This jar is gonna sit in the fridge for 24 hours. Refrigerating it like this will develop a deeper, sweeter, and more balanced flavor. It's been 30 hours, and here is our beautiful dough. You'll wanna give this dough at least a couple hours to come to room temperature, and while we wait, we can talk about ovens. The first and best option is if you can find a true wood-fired pizza oven like the kind they have in Italy, but that's unlikely for most of us. The second best option is an at-home pizza oven like this one here. These will often get up to at least 700 degrees Fahrenheit, and some of them work surprisingly well. The third option is cooking it in a normal oven, and for that you can use either a pizza stone or you can simply flip a baking sheet like this one upside down and bake the pizza on there. But remember, a normal oven will only get up to about 500 degrees Fahrenheit, and the whole point of cooking a Neapolitan style pizza is to cook it fast so that you don't dry out the pizza and the crust. The #1 thing to remember, no matter how you cook your pizza, is to get your oven as hot as you possibly can. And now that our oven's preheating, let's get ready to cook. I always get dirty making pizzas, so let's just get it out of the way now. There we go. Now I won't feel bad. Whenever I am shaping dough, I like a clean work surface, so get everything nice and neat. About a week ago, I was eating at the #2 pizza restaurant in the world, which happens to be in Tokyo, Japan, and I saw the chef shaping his dough with lots of flour. And it made so much sense because you can't really put too much flour into your dough as long as you work with it the right way. The best part about shaping Neapolitan style crust is how easy it is to work with. With the right technique, you barely even have to touch it, and in just a few moments, you'll have a beautifully shaped pizza crust like this one here. In studying Neapolitan pizza, I've also noticed that most of them are quite small, and they also have this very large and disproportionate airy crust that'll puff up a lot more in the oven. The way we cook these is very interesting. We're gonna start by putting a few ice chips on the dough, and that'll allow us to do a first cook where we slow down how fast the top of the pizza crust cooks while the bottom fully sets. I know it looks a little weird, and we wouldn't do this with a normal dough, but trust the process. As always, with making a pizza, I like to constantly slide it on the peel to make sure nothing's stuck, and then we toss it carefully into the oven. Make sure to get that oven closed as quickly as you can. If you watch carefully here, you'll see that crust puff up very, very quickly. And remember, a real Neapolitan style pizza will cook fully in just 90 seconds. So even though we're cooking at a lower temperature here, everything's still gonna happen really fast. This first pizza is our test pizza. Watch it carefully, study it, and make sure you know exactly what's happening so that you can know how to make the second one later. As you can see, some of that crust is poking up a little bit higher than I might want, but we can fix that for next time. Eventually, when all that water has evaporated, go ahead and take your pizza out. Listen to this crust here, ready? Those little black spots right there are called leopard spots. We want to get them on the bottom and the top of the pizza crust. This whole thing right here, this is an easy fix. It just means I had too big of an air bubble on the side of the crust, but this is perfect. So I'm actually not even going to use this pizza. I've already learned everything I need to from this. And now it's time to make our first official pizza. To recap what I learned with our last one, I want a slightly smaller crust on the edge, maybe a little bit less ice just so it melts faster in the oven, and I don't want any air bubbles that are going to be too big. This right here should be perfect. Perhaps your biggest takeaway from all that should be to make sure you make enough dough. As you can see now, we're getting a much more even crust in this one here. And look at all that steam that's escaping out of the pizza oven here. That is the water flying right off the crust. Here we are. That screams Neapolitan crust. Now we just have to turn it into an actual pizza. Let's bring in all of our toppings. We have endless possibilities here, but I'm going to share with you my 4 best pizza recipes, starting with the classic margarita. All we do is start with some of that amazing tomato sauce. The smell and more importantly, taste of this after you let it sit in the fridge for that long, we'll go down across the pizza with some of that sauce, not too much because it's quite watery. Once that's all spread out, we'll add a few optional extra pieces of basil, as well as some mozzarella cheese. One thing I learned from watching the best pizza chefs in the world is that they don't actually use that much cheese. In fact, they don't really use much of any ingredients. That's what makes this kind of pizza so good, is that they keep it simple. And the final thing that makes you know it's a Neapolitan style pizza is a little drizzle of olive oil right over the top. And that's it. Back into the oven we go to finish it up. Watch carefully now. Everything's gonna start to bubble and blend all together. And the reason we didn't cook the tomato sauce earlier is that all the cooking happens in here. It doesn't need much. Oh yeah, here we go. That is a pizza. I pride myself on making better and better pizzas as I go, but I don't know. We might have outdone ourselves here, everybody. I'm gonna need your help to let me know if the pizzas get better or worse as the video goes on. Ready? Listen. It's hard to pick which slice. Woo! The first thing I always notice about a slice of Neapolitan pizza is how light it is. Most people would wait to bite this, but I've eaten so many hot things at this point in my life that I can't really get burnt anymore, so. Oh wow. Everything is perfect. The flavor of the crust, the simplicity of the toppings. Let me show you the next one because I think it's even better than this one. I told you earlier that I would let you know a secret ingredient that the #1 pizza chef in the world showed me. And I'm sure some of you are wondering what exactly that is. Well, a few years ago, I went to the #1 pizzeria in the world, which is in Naples, called I Masanielli. There, I got to go into the kitchen and make pizzas with the head chef, Francesco. And while we were there, I wondered, how is it that out of all the pizzerias in the entire world, this guy can make the best? So I stood there and I watched and I listened and I noticed something. Francesco was the sweatiest man I've ever seen in my life. And I say this with love because he was also one of the coolest chefs I've ever met in my life. But we couldn't help notice that as he stood there hunched over the pizzas, he was constantly dripping down that salty sweat right onto the crust. And I left that day with the feeling that that salt might be his secret ingredient. So now, sometimes when I think of Francesco, I add just a tiny little pinch once in a while of salt to the crust. And I think maybe I could make the world's best pizza too. The craziest thing about all that is that even after seeing all that sweat that he dripped on there, I still ate pizza there twice. I even brought my own family there because the pizza was just that good. We'll continue this pizza. I'm gonna add on some of this beautiful pistachio cream instead of tomato sauce. Oh, the smell right as that pistachio cream hits the hot pizza crust. It immediately goes into the air. It smells amazing. It is just melting across the dough for me right away. I don't even have to do any work here. On top of that, I'm gonna add some mozzarella. Back into the oven we go. But just wait till you see what I put on after it bakes. Oh wow. That's already done. Oh my gosh, that looks good. That is gonna be a good one. We'll finish this pizza by adding on a few slices of mortadella, then some amazing looking fresh burrata cheese. That'll give us that really nice hot-cold contrast when we go to bite into this one. This is the best day ever. I'm gonna just make this a pizza channel. Then some beautiful crushed pistachios, just to help accent and give some texture to that pistachio cream that we used, and some freshly grated lemon zest, along with a little drizzle of olive oil. And voila. So far, I'm curious with everyone watching who would choose this pizza and who would choose the other one. I think that looks better than the other one. Whoa. It is better. I mean, just check this out. How could you not want to eat that? You want a bite? Okay. It's pretty good, huh? It's good. Yeah. Okay, I'm having a lot of fun here, so let's keep going. Trying to think if I have any other cool pizza stories for you. I told you about my recent trip to the #2 pizzeria in the world, which is in Tokyo, Japan. I've become really great friends with the chef there, and they do all crazy kinds of toppings on their pizzas. I've had pizza there that has tuna on it, some Japanese sea urchin, pizzas with toppings I never would have thought would work. Those of you watching, I'd love for you to comment and let me know the craziest pizza topping you've ever had. This one is really fun. I'm gonna put down a little bit of jam. The best is some kind of fig jam here, spread all across the bottom. That's gonna melt down and caramelize right into the base of the crust. Then once again, we'll add some mozzarella, and here we go. Look at all the jam on there, like I said, beautifully bubbling. This is gonna be a good one. The smell is sort of like a warm peanut butter and jelly sandwich without the peanut butter. Let's finish this one off. We'll add some prosciutto. Don't skimp on the prosciutto, give enough, you know? Then we have these beautiful fresh figs. I want 1 fig per slice of pizza here. That's my goal. Then we'll hit it with some arugula, and to finish, a few beautiful ribbons of Parmesan cheese. Don't forget, a little bit of olive oil. How is it that each pizza we make, we somehow make it better than the last? The best part about making these all by myself is I always get the first choice of slice. Oh, look at that. We did it again. I only have one question left in this video, and that is whether our last pizza can be the best one. Okay. Notice that as I press this out, I am pushing out some of the air bubbles in the center of the pizza because we don't want that part to puff up. We really only want that crust on the edge to puff up as it cooks. Vote right now in the comments. You gotta lock it in. You can't change your answer later. Is this pizza gonna be the best pizza we make today? I'm going somewhat classic with this last pizza, but still with a twist. As always, we'll add on our tomato sauce, then plenty of that beautiful mozzarella cheese with a touch of olive oil, and back in we go. With this pizza, I'll add on some basil and olive oil, as well as a few pieces of grilled zucchini, a couple nice halved cherry tomatoes, a few pieces of roasted red peppers, a tiny touch of salt to season all those vegetables, since I'm not sweaty enough to drip on the pizza, maybe just one more bit of lemon zest because of how much I loved that. And you know what? I'm not even gonna eat this one. I'll leave it for you guys. Sorry, I might have burnt that one a little bit.